Okay, Be'ezrat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to another session of our Tanya class, IGERET TESHUVAH. Baruch Hashem, last week we finished Perek Aleph. Today we are starting Perek Bet. It's very interesting because I'm trying to get the content in a way where we can grasp it, and it seems like that the content of the upcoming chapter 2, has to be taught in one lesson. So we're actually going to finish Perek Bet tonight also. We'll move on to Perek Gimel next week, but Perek Bet is going to be our endeavor for tonight. Before we get started, I'd like to give some honorable mention dedications. Be'ezrat Hashem, that this class will be to the Ilu Nishmat of Arav Yoram Michael Abergel, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and all that we are learning from his book B'tzuri Arom, who is the commentary on the Tanya. Baruch Hashem, I'll keep saying this term because it's exactly what it feels like. The Rav is spoon feeding us high-level Torah at an elementary level that it's understood and being and able to be internalized. This class is also dedicated to his son, Harav Yisrael Abergel Shlita, that in his behest and his request to start learning this, we are here. And Baruch Hashem, it's several weeks and it's growing in its size as far as the people that are learning, as well as the viewership online. As Hashem Ve'echoto, Sameachoto, Be'ezrat Hashem, that we'll see him here soon. And I just want to give just a few dedications because we still don't have a proper setup over here with proper sponsorships and all those things, but we do have a big thank you to Yehudit Ben Shabbat, who obviously took it upon herself to bring the pizza, make the cake, put things together. And again, another invitation to everyone. Tomorrow is that big famous class in Miami Beach, the Rosh Chodesh class that Yehudit Ben Shabbat has. Please join us. Be'ezrat Hashem, this class will be to the Ilu Nishmat of Avraham Yoshua ben Sultana, Simon ben Alia, Meir ben Rebecca, Sultana ben Frecha, Mazal bat Luna, Yitzhak ben Sevilla, as well as the Ilu Nishmat David ben Zohar, Yaniv ben Rinam, Yisher ben Zohar, Aviv ben Vivi. And for the general success, Bracha v'atzlacha to all the people that are in attendance, to all the regulars, to all the new faces, and Be'ezrat Hashem, Hashem Maleh Kol Mi Shortei Bechem L'Tovah. And let's get started. Let's do a review. A review of Perek Aleph. As we entered IGERET TESHUVAH, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman Miladi gave us a process of how it works behind the scenes when we sin. And it spoke about how Hashem treats the transgressions of mitzvot aseh, mitzvot lo ta'aseh, transgressions that require karet, and chilul Hashem or mitot beddin. This was all taken from a Gemara, from Masechet Yomah, and we learned very quickly that when somebody transgresses a mitzvot aseh, a simple teshuvah process offers true forgiveness and you're atoned. Then we learn on mitzvot lo ta'aseh, on the negative commandments, that not only do you need to do teshuvah, but you also have to wait for that auspicious day of Yom Kippur to pass over you in order for everything to get cleared up. And then we got to that level of karet, which was last week's lesson. These 36 mitzvot that excommunicate a person spiritually and physically, sometimes from this world, sometimes from the next, and sometimes both. And the only way to rectify a karet is teshuvah process. Yom Kippur has to pass over the person, and then Isurim have to come upon him, which is afflictions. And we saw, the rabbi gave us a little bit of an insight of how the affliction process works. There was one fourth stage, which is chilul Hashem, which requires the person to do teshuvah. Yom Kippur has to go over him. He has to go through afflictions, but only his deathbed atones. But the Baal Tanya is not going to deal with number 4, because he's only going to deal with us with things that people can do when they're alive, not when they're dead. So we only dealt with 3. We did a quick sort of analysis over which one is more powerful. Is it mitzvat aseh or mitzvat lo ta'aseh? And we found out that mitzvat aseh has so much power by the spiritual light that it draws down from the Or Ein Sof through the Sefirot down to our world, that spiritual abundance is so great that when you miss out on that mitzvah, that loss is greater than when a person transgresses over a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, even though the teshuvah process is lengthier. It requires teshuvah and Yom Kippurim. We said it's 2 different things. Mitzvah aseh is way stronger, and we said that mitzvah aseh is such a big deal in the Shamayim with all the spiritual abundance that comes with it. And we have 248 positive commandments and 365 negative, and we take all these 248 mitzvot and we hold them at such high regard. But we finished off in saying, but don't forget that the whole 613 put together are not comparable to Torah learning, which is higher than all. So look at how Torah learning is on a much higher level than even all the performance of the mitzvot. Above and beyond that, we also dealt with the last comment that was made by the Rav on chapter 1, and that's going to segue into chapter 2, which he says that when it does come to the teshuvah process, some people take upon themselves a fasting process, where a person sort of puts his body through the grind in order to atone for his sins. And he would frown upon that process. He says when people start to fast to atone for sins, it's not a proper way. Why? Because what happens is the people focus in the food part so much that they miss out on the transformation process that they need to go through. Meaning, the guy is so connected to not eating for 16 hours, that's his whole focus. I didn't eat, as if the whole fasting process was just about the food. Or rather, the reason why we fast is to give ourselves some time to go through a transformation, to have some introspect. I did something wrong. I have to atone. I have to change my ways. So if you're just not eating, but not going through the whole teshuvah process, then that fast is useless. It became a dietary exercise as opposed to a teshuvah process. So he frowned upon the whole idea of fasting, because right now fasting, it takes all the focus and it just becomes a dietary exercise, where in reality the person misses out on the whole teshuvah process. The focus of that day when you're fasting is to actually less physical, more spiritual, and to rectify yourself and improve your attributes and your character and do a proper teshuvah process. And that's where we left off. And then there was one final example that was given by Yoel, where it says that during that time when there was a plague of locusts, and because of that plague of locusts, everybody did what? They did a teshuvah with the fasting, and it was a good thing. And it says over there that the reason why fasting and teshuvah worked for that is because it was something unique to the current event. It was something unique that they had a plague, they had this locust, they were focused, they did the teshuvah process that was very much connected to what's going on, and that's what was appropriate. But as far as a personal approach of fasting on your own, most people are not at that place where they're physically strong enough, or that they give the focus to the teshuvah process rather than just the refraining from eating, and that's where we left off. Obviously, there were more things that we went into depth, but I can't mention everything. But the short of the long, that was chapter 1. We move into chapter 2. Chapter 2 begins, I'll just give a little bit, so again, just so everybody knows, what is the style of learning that we're doing over here? The style, I'm sorry, I also forgot that this class should be today, Lu Nishmat, of Yuda ben Aharon, Brendel ben Meir Dov. I forgot to mention that. Um, the style of learning is different. This class is different. I enjoy the style of Parashat Shavua. I enjoy the style of the Emunah class. I enjoy the style of the of Rosh Chodesh. Those classes are exciting and juicy and they have a flow. Here, it's a little bit different. We're learning text. When you learn text, the text dictates how the flow of the class goes. So what we're actually doing is we're going word for what the Rav wrote, and we're explaining it. So just so you understand, it's a different style of learning. I actually hold this learning to be the best learning and the strongest learning of the week because it's real learning. We're getting really, really deep. And anyone who's been here in the past 4 or 5 classes, you see, we talk about really lofty concepts and we dissect them. We get really, really deep into understand. We're not going to read a word and just glance over it. If we come to a point that we're not going to understand, we're going to drill down until we get it in order to get clarity, because at the end of the day, this is a very high level learning. So we're going to slow and steady wins the race. You know, we're going to take it upon ourselves to finish chapter 2 today. Let's get started. So in our previous chapter, we spoke about teshuvah, and we said that ta'aniyot v'sigufim are that the whole part that the whole part of teshuvah, it's the whole thing of fasting or causing afflictions, rolling in the snow, or like wearing a sackcloth and not eating. It's not connected to the teshuvah process. Even though that we mentioned in Yoel that they did it and it worked for them. It says, as it says in the pasuk, "Shuvi adai bechol levavchem betzom ubebechi," that come back to me with fasting and crying, and it worked for them. It was specific to that time because of what makat arbe achzarit beyoter, that a very, very heavy locust plague, and it worked for them. The reason why it worked is because they collectively fasted and cried in order to nullify a decree. And it was also at the request of the prophet. So the prophet gave him a prescription. We have a very heavy plague. The only way we can get rid of it is if we cry and if we fast. So they followed their instructions. So we can't take that as an example for our personal lives. Yes, it worked in that scenario and in that scenario only. As a matter of fact, just because Purim is upon us, we saw that something similar happened in the story of Purim. That there was a decree against the Jewish people, that Haman wanted to annihilate all the Jewish people in one day, and Mordechai instead decreed that people should what? Fast and cry for 3 days to nullify the decree. So we can see that fasting and crying to nullify a decree is appropriate when you're instructed by a leader, by a prophet, and it's for a specific time. As it says in the Haggadah, Lashmid, Laharog, Ulabed. That Haman wanted to annihilate, to kill, and to completely destroy the Jewish people. Furthermore, we said that even though the classic formula for teshuvah is to stop the sinning, regret it, do a teshuvah process, and take it upon yourself to never do it again. It was a 4-parter. Remember? Leave the sin behind, regret that you did it, do a teshuvah process, take it upon yourself not to do it anymore, and even to add more, to do what? Do acts of kindness. Become a better version of yourself. We said that those are the 4 steps to teshuvah. Baal HaTanya says, no. But teshuvah is only a 1-part process, which is azivat achet bilvad. Just say that you're not going to do the sin anymore, you're absolved, you're clean. That's the entire teshuvah process. So the Ramban, or the classic formula to teshuvah is completely different from the Baal Tanya's form of teshuvah. Baal Tanya has 1 step, everybody else has 4. Interesting to know, since we're learning the Baal Tanya, to get to know the mindset of the Rav. So anytime somebody's going to tell you to do something, or anytime somebody comes with some sort of a form of instruction of telling you what to do, which is specifically found in the Gemara or in the Mishnah, that's where we get oral or our halachic laws, they're going to tell him, where'd you get this from? Where did you get this idea, this process, this formula? And the rabbi has to back it up. He either has to bring a pasuk, he has to bring a braita, Mishnah, something. Make your case. So when it comes to this idea that the teshuvah process does not require the 4 steps, rather just one, azivat achet bilvad, leaving the sin behind only. Where is the source for that? So it's brought over here in Masechet Sanhedrin on the 25th page on the second side. Sha'adam ha'muchzak ba'avra mesuyemet nikra rasha. He says if there's somebody who's constantly transgressing in the same sin, you can put him under the category of wicked, rasha. If there's one guy that sins with the same sin over and over and over and over and over again, he gets the title of rasha, wicked. And because he's considered a rasha, he can't give over testimony in court. How does a guy take that title away from him? If somebody is not categorized as wicked, as a rasha, how does he take away that title away from him? All he has to do, שיצהיר שמפסיק עם אותה עבירה ונעשה ראוי להעיד בבית דין. All he has to do is say, I am no longer going to transgress. I'm no longer going to do this avera. And as soon as he says that, the next minute he can go to court and be a proper witness in the Jewish court. So we see, in order for a person who transgressed and was considered wicked in society, Masechet Sanhedrin says, as long as he lets ozev et achet, he leaves the sin behind and says he's no longer going to do it, he becomes once again capable, as well as what's the word that I'm looking for? He becomes qualified to testify in a court of law again. So we see that one teshuvah process took him out of the title of wicked, and he can testify. This is why the Baal HaTanya's theory of one step of teshuvah is enough. There's another ayah, there's another proof to that one step of teshuvah is enough, and he brings it from Shulchan Aruch. It says, the fact that a person just decided to leave the sin behind already helps him to have it considered as if he did teshuvah, and it's considered as if he did teshuvah mele'ah. Even if he just decided to. He didn't do it yet, he decided to. And he doesn't have to do all the other steps, vidur, charata, isurim, vechule. So we see that one that even just decided to do teshuvah is considered for him as well. So this backs up the Rav's formula of one step and you're done. Furthermore, in Masechet Brachot on the 34th page on the second side, Amar Rav Kahana, Chatzuf be'enai mi shemefresh rabim et chata'av. He says, somebody who goes and tells people his sins, he's brazen, he's chatzuf, right? What would that be? He says that ba'alet teshuvah, people that do teshuvah, once you do teshuvah, it's not your job to say, you know how I used to be in the club life. You know how I used to be in the casinos. You know how I used to be in the fight clubs. Don't go and boast about what you used to be before. He says, why? צריך לשתוק בכל מה שקשור לעבר שלו. Why? He says, why? Because to look back, you put yourself in the danger zone. Because you wake up the thoughts of what you used to be, and you might be, I miss it. Or, as soon as you start to talk about it, the heavenly court says, he's mentioning it. Let's open up the old books. Let's see what he did over there. You're opening up a kitrug in the shamayim. He says, "Mistaklim ala atid, mitchaskim rak bechiyuvi." He says the person who went through a teshuvah process. The rabbi here is just giving us like a little life tip, which this is what I love about B'tzuri Arom. He always throws in something that's just like practical for every day. He says, if you did the teshuvah process, be quiet. Don't mention your past. Always look towards the future and always think about positive things that you're going to do in the future. Now, in this chapter, the rabbi is going to shift. And he's going to go deeper to teshuvah. We spoke about teshuvah, and of course how this whole thing started is teshuvah del ela, teshuvah del tata. Teshuvah del ela is that ultimate teshuvah where you're working on yourself to give Hashem back your neshama the way you got it. The way that Hashem gave it to you, to return it in the same state. If you're not able to do that, then you have to start at the bottom, which is teshuvah del tata. Teshuvah del tata is when a person takes upon himself to work on the 248 positive commandments and 365 negative commandments, and he works on self. I'm doing a proper teshuvah process. And how? Well, we just itemized it before. How we do? What's the different steps for those transgressions? Once you get really good at doing teshuvah del tata, teshuvah on the 248 and 365, you graduate to the higher level where you're working on you to bring your neshama to Kadosh Baruch Hu the way that He gave it to you when you first got it. Then we said in that process there's teshuvah me'ahava and teshuvah mir'ah. There's a way to do it out of love and there's a way to do it out of fear. And later on we thought that, as the Gemara told us, that teshuvah mir'ah ofechet zdonot leshgagot, ותשובה me'ahava zdonot lezchuyot, which basically meant when we do a sin and when we do teshuvah out of fear, because we don't want to get punished because of old age, because there's no money and you just want to be a good person, that's it, you want to do teshuvah, and it comes out of a place of fear, then what happens is the sins get zeroed out. They go from zedonot to shgagot. You go minus 1 million, you go into zero. You have no debt in the bank. That's out of yirah. Teshuvah out of ahava takes your sins and it takes your negative 1 million and turns into a surplus of 1 million. Your averot turn into mitzvot if you do it out of love. What is teshuvah me'ahava? We said teshuvah me'ahava is not that you write a love note to Kadosh Baruch Hu, a big heart with an arrow in it, Hashem, I love you. No, it's more like when you're coming to Kadosh Baruch Hu and you're saying, you're the most important relationship in my life. Nothing trumps my relationship to you. I don't want to ruin my closeness to you. I am so concerned about how close we are that I don't want to do not one sin to distance you. And it doesn't matter who comes in the way of that. Not my children, not my family, not my job, not society, not anything. Nothing will get between me and my closeness to you. And if I did that, I feel so far away from you that all I want to do is come back. That's teshuvah me'ahava. That's the definition that they gave us, that you get to that point that all you care about is not to rock the boat of that relationship between you and God. Within that relationship of teshuvah me'ahava, in this chapter, the rabbi is going to tell us and we said the teshuvah mir'ah. This was the blockbuster chidush that we had, which was when you do teshuvah from mir'ah out of fear, all that does is just delays the punishment. Meaning you don't have any more sins, but there's a punishment that's waiting for you. The punishment is waiting for you. It's delayed. It's just sitting there in the corner. It's just you just delayed it and delayed it and delayed it and delayed it. Why? Because teshuvah mir'ah is just so you can eventually get to teshuvah me'ahava. And when you get to teshuvah me'ahava, that's the magic eraser. That's the one that erases the punishment as well. But that was the big block, the big chidush that we learned last week. So the whole reason why we have teshuvah mir'ah is to give you more time so you can get to the actual ultimate teshuvah, which is teshuvah me'ahava, which eventually will lead you to teshuvah del ela, which is that higher level teshuvah, which will bring you to bring your soul back to Kadosh Baruch Hu, the way that you got it. Like I said, there's so many layers to this learning. I tried to repeat it over and over and over again just so everybody can be holding, but that's what's happening over here. Chapter 2, the Rav says, remember that teshuvah me'ahava that we were talking about? Let me give you another layer. Another layer. And here we start to hear the words of the Tanya. It says, the Rabbi is going to answer the question over here. How does a person bring himself back to a situation before the sin? Whatever the sin was, how do I get to the point where I go back to the original point before the sin? Right? So whatever the sin is, I want to find out what brings me back to the place that I was before the sin. In other words, how do I make the sin go away? And he begins, אך כל זה לעניין כפרה ומחילת העוון, שנמחל לו לגמרי מה שעבר מצוות המלך, כשעשה תשובה שלמה. He says everything that we discussed previously, the kapara, mechilat avon, that Hashem atones and forgives us, this is because he transgressed over the words of the king. The king told you, don't do this, and you did it. The king told you, stay away from that, and you didn't. You didn't listen to the king. He gave you instructions, and you didn't listen. And when we said, okay, when you didn't listen to the king, we have a triple pathway to coming back. We said mitzvot taseh, mitzvot lo taseh, and mitzvot and karet. And we said that all these teshuvah processes, right, work as a form of kapara with no need for ta'aniyot and sigufim. No need to fast, no need to add afflictions to you, right? Like for example, again, if you want to do it, if a person wants to afflict himself, like, you know, you're in New York, you get into your birthday suit and you roll around in snow to punish your body, right? Or you want to wear like a sackcloth which is all rough on the body to, you know, the body's derived pleasure. Let me punish the body, or whatever it is, sigufim. Or you turn to the wall and you ask your one of your friends, take this belt and give me 100 lashes. I've been a bad boy. Is this going to help your teshuvah process? The Rav says no. We have 3 different ways that don't require you to go on a fast or to add afflictions. ואין מזכירים לו דבר וחצי והם מזכירים לו דבר וחצי דבר ביום הדין לעונשו הזה חס ושלום בעולם הבא ונפטר לגמרי מן הדין בעולם הבא. And he says, even if he goes through the teshuvah process without fasting and without sigufim, know that nothing will get mentioned to him, not a thing, not even half of a thing will get mentioned to him about his punishment in the next world. He comes completely clean, meaning you do not need to add ta'aniyot and sigufim to your teshuvah process. Because azab et hachet, itcharet, vitvada alav, kibev alav v'atid. Because he went through the original formula of leaving the sin behind. He regretted it. He made a vidui on it. He took upon himself to not do it again, and that suffices. No more than that. And over here, we can see God's patience with a person. That, in Hebrew we say Shakadosh Baruch Hu mukhan lisvol et ha'adam levad shebasof yitakem v'yishaper et ma'asav. He says, look at what Hashem is willing to do, just so a person can eventually come back and become better. Because if you think of the teshuvah process, if you look around, not everybody comes back instantly. Sometimes people sin for a long period of time. Sometimes for half of their lives. Sometimes for most of their lives. Humans, for us, what happens? If somebody sins, what do you want? You want exact justice immediately. You're a bad boy, come here, let me punish you. If you're a tzaddik, maybe you'll have some patience, you wait. But what human being will wait for somebody who on a daily basis sins on the same thing? Or several sins, or hundreds of sins, or thousands of sins, Or imagine a person who went against your word 1,000,000 times in the past 20 years. As a human being, it'll be like, throw him to the dogs, throw him to the lions, put him lifetime in jail, you know? How can you, or a king, you don't listen to one thing that a king does, that's it, throw him to the pit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the king of all kings, the creator of the universe, the one who gives life, the one who gives everything that we have, our money, our children, our happiness, our refuah, all the things that we live off and go against him, and he still gives time. That's how merciful Hashem is. That's how amazing teshuvah is, that he's willing to wait for people to come back. And when they do a teshuvah process, it's enough. He says also, no, you don't have to fast. You don't have to do sigufim. It's enough. Omnam, שיהיה לרצון לפני השם, ומרוצה וחביב לפניו יתברך כקודם החטא, להיות נחת רוח לקונו מעבודתו. Here, the Rav is starting to open up something, and this is a very, very strong point, and I think the whole lesson is going to start opening up from this pathway. It says, when a person does teshuvah, know that you want Hashem to want your teshuvah. Think about it, on a human level. When somebody did something wrong to you, sometimes you really, really, really wish they come back and they make amends. Please come back. Please do teshuvah. Please, let's get back to the way it used to be. Sometimes somebody does something wrong to you, you could care less if they do teshuvah. And even if they say they're sorry, you'll say, okay, I accept it. But the closeness is not there. There's still a distance. What the Rav wants to tell us here, Omnam sheyeh leratzon lifnei Hashem. He says, we're talking about teshuvah, like teshuvah like this, teshuvah like that, this way, that way, backwards, flip it. He says, wait, but still no, sheyeh leratzon lifnei Hashem, that it should be wanted by God. Umerutze v'chaviv lefanav, and it be wanted and sweet in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That he should see you kekodem ached, that he won't even remember the sin. He will see you. You want to do a teshuvah process that brings you to the status before you sin. Liot nachat ruach lekono me'avodato, that he should derive pleasure from your service. So this one-liner here is saying that this whole entire teshuvah process should be that it's wanted by God, and that it deletes whatever you did to the point that Hashem looks at you like who you were before that sin. There was a period in time in Jewish history where that was a reality. You could really erase your sin and gain back that closeness that you lost. When was that? During the time of Bet HaMikdash. היה צריך להביא קורבן עולה, אפילו על מצוות עשה קלה שאין בה כרת ומיתת בית דין. During the time of Bet HaMikdash, people would bring this korban olah. There's many different types of sacrifices. One of them is olah. Olah is they put it and the whole thing goes up on the mizbeach. And they would bring it on the mitzvot aseh in the time Bet HaMikdash was. And this animal sacrifice that was brought as an olah, lo hayta l'shem kapara. That animal sacrifice was not to atone for the sin. Ela, he had to do a proper teshuvah shelema, so everything would be forgiven. So if he did a proper teshuvah, according to the formula of teshuvah, why was it required for him to bring a korban olah? The olah is not to atone for the sin. There are different korbanot, different sacrifices that a person needs to bring because of his sin, and olah is not for that. So if a person did a certain sin, that the only thing that was necessary for it is a teshuvah process, why would they require him to bring an animal sacrifice called an olah? That is the question over here. The answer is, שהחוטא יכול להגיע למצב בו השם יתברך אוהב אותו, דואג לו ומשגיח עליו בדיוק כמו לפני החטא שחטא לפניו. He says, you know what's the purpose of olah? If the teshuvah process was enough, it's in order to bring the person closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu, so he could love him and care for him and protect him, just like he did before the sin. And this process of reversing a person's relationship to before the sin, Zoi shlichuto shel adam. This is our mission in life. Lachzor liot naki kmo sheHashem bara oto. And here we're touching on that high level teshuvah, that a person's mission in this world is to be so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so close, so clean of sin, a teshuvah process that is so good, that cleans you up to the point that when you return your soul to God after 120, it's spotless. A teshuvah process that yields a neshama that is spotless, that you've returned the neshama to Kadosh Baruch Hu after 120 years, the same way you got it on day one. This is why a person constantly needs to be in a state of teshuvah, always thinking about, what did I do wrong? I have to do a cheshbon nefesh, just like, in business. Let me tell you something. When it comes to money, boy, are we on top of it. Where's my profits? Where's my losses? Which product works? Which product is not working? Oh, let's have a 30-day analysis. Let's have a quarterly meeting, a yearly meeting. Are we peaking? Are we dipping? Show me the pie chart. Oh my God. When it comes to making money, all the tools, all the time, all the focus. The Rebbe is telling us, do the same thing for your spirituality. See what works, see what doesn't work. See what you keep, see what you delete. Where are you? Where's your pie chart? Where's your pie chart? Where's your graph of how you are in your spirituality? The same way that you act like that in your business, do your spiritual auditing on a daily basis. Why? That's going to yield a neshama that goes back to the Shamayim clean like the day it was born. But if you don't do that process, if you're not working on yourself, and you're not doing constant teshuvah, you're going to have a neshama that's dirty, spots, this, that. You're going to have to answer it for it later on. Again, what are we learning here? We're learning here, IGERET TESHUVAH. The rabbi is trying to teach us here. If you're in the business of wanting to rectify your sins, if you're in the business of wanting to give Hashem back your neshama the way that it was given to you, if you're in the business of cleaning up all what you did in the past, here's the formula on a daily basis. And just so you know, Kriyat Shema Lamita, that's what it is. If you go to that 2, 3, 4 pager that you have back there, what is it? What is the process there? It's that you sit down before you say anything and you just, what a day. What was good? Oh yeah, that was good. Let me keep that tomorrow. What was that? That was very good. Let me build on that. Oh, that was amazing. Let's keep that going. Okay. What was bad? Uh-oh. There it is again. That's the 15th time this month that I did that. Oh my God, I never did this before. Look what happened over here. And look, you're auditing yourself. What's happening? And then tomorrow you say, okay, I know that these things I stay away from, and these things I'm building off of, and that's how you build your character. And that's how you refine your character. And that's how you constantly in the teshuvah process. And as long as you're judging yourself below, they're not going to judge you in the shamayim. Why? Because there's a law that no two courts can be in session at the same time. So as long as they go up into the shamayim and they say, hey, Ploni ben Ploni, open up the books. Today we're taking him to court. That's it. The prosecuting attorney comes with boxes against you. They come to open. He comes to opening remarks. Oh, sorry. He's working on himself downstairs. Two courts can't be in session at the same time. He's judging himself right now. What do you mean? Last night, Shema, look, he's judging. I like it. I don't like it. It's good. He's a work in progress. Work in progress, come back later. And the dinim and the shamayim are on pause. Why? Because you're working on yourself. As long as you're a work in progress, you are judge and jury of your own self in this world. And Hashem does that. He gives that opportunity so you can judge yourself. You can modify your actions and your behavior so you can become a better version of yourself. So as long as you're working on it, then that's good. But if you're not working on it, then Hashem says, then obviously I have to send down events, situations, angels, people that will create difficulties in your life in order for you to get to your ultimate tikkun. So if you're not working on it, he's going to make it that you work on it, whether you like it or not. So it's always better to work on yourself. What's a good way to do it is that you acquire tools, and on a daily basis at night before you go to sleep, just audit yourself. It's a big tip for winning life on a spiritual level in the Shamayim. Continues to say, so there's going to be a lot of pesukim over here. I'm just going to zoom through them. Just like our rabbis told us about a pasuk in Vayikra, that this olah, this sacrifice that we're talking about, which is unnecessary because the teshuvah process is enough. However, this olah comes. It says that v'nirtza lo lechaper alav, sha'olah meratza al mei shebitel mitzvat aseh. Somebody who did a teshuvah process on a positive commandment, but this olah, it makes Hashem, it pleases God. And it brings another Gemara, Masechet Zvachim, on the 7th page on the second side. דעולה מכפרת על מצוות עשה, והיא דורון לאחר שעשה תשובה ונמחל לו העונש. Here is the Chidush. He says דעולה is supposed to atone for mitzvat aseh, but not because it's part of the rectification process. He doron lachar shasa tshuva. It's a gift to God after a person did the teshuvah process. V'nimchal lo ha'onesh. So the rectification process is the actual teshuvah that you do. The olah is a gift. So let's try to imagine it. You have a child and they did something really bad. They didn't listen, right? They want to make amends. So they come and say, Abba, Ima, I am truly and genuinely sorry. I don't know how I did it. I usually pay attention to everything that you tell me. I follow your rules and your guidelines. I don't know what happened. Maybe I shouldn't be hanging out with these friends. Maybe I had a moment of relapse. I didn't have my faculties with me. I apologize. I'm sorry. I will never do it again. As a parent, you're like, you know what? I forgive you. And then he pulls out from behind his back, and I got you something. This is for you. And all of a sudden, he gets like this beautiful gift that the mother and the father exactly wanted. That's what the olah is. The olah is the gift. The teshuvah was enough. The olah brings the closeness. It brings like you sort of like, you're forgiven, but now you really got me. Now there's not only nimchal ha'onesh, but he also brings a gift with him. The olah is like a gift. He says, and he's giving us a practical example. When a person did something wrong and the king caught him, and the person that got caught wants to get off the hook, so he brings a praklitin. What's a praklitin? A praklitin is a friend of the king. So imagine there's a king. I did something wrong. I know the best friend of the king, and I tell the best friend of the king, help me out. I can't believe it. I did something wrong. He's your best friend. Talk to him. I know you can get me off the hook. So it says, Shadam Sach Bamelech, and you know what, it worked. The best friend went, he spoke for me, and the king said, you know what? Because you're my best friend, I forgive him. Because you're my best friend, I forgive him. You know, it's a situation. As a matter of fact, the Rambam says, Shepraklit, hu ish hamelitz tov uvakesh al adam lifnei hamelech. The definition of the word praklit is a person who goes in defense of the person, and on the behest of the person, he asks for forgiveness in front of the king. Arav Gaon HaKadosh Yehuda Lev Puchuvitzer says that praklit is a combination of two words, porek lit. What's porek lit? Porek is to get rid of. Lit is in Aramaic curse. Porek lit, he gets rid of the curse, he gets rid of the problem. So a person brings the best friend of the king and he helps him get off the hook. Afal piken, he says, even though the teshuvah and mitzvot are like the praklit, even though that a person, when he does teshuvah mitzvot, it's as if they come in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu and they speak positively from the person, and a Kadosh Baruch Hu forgives him and accepts him back. Even though after he was forgiven, that person still gives a big gift and he brings it to the king in order for the person to be close to the king again. So now he could actually come into the castle and still visit the king, because he can be forgiven and the king never wants to see him again. So in order to do that, he comes and he brings him, he's like, you know what, I was in the deserts of Africa and I found this beautiful stone and it's one of one. No one else has it in the world. You're so dear to me. My relationship to you is so special that I'm willing to give you this precious stone of mine to the king. And the king says, wow, look at this. What a gift. We're back on being best buds again. So we see that there's a process of being forgiven and then bring a gift. Teshuvah helps you get forgiving. The olah, that olah sacrifice, brings back the closeness.
It's not called bribery?
Huh?
It's not called bribery?
No, it's a gift. I don't think my kids would be bribing me if they gave me a gift. It would be nice. Bribery is like you have to be something sinister behind it, right?
Yeah, so
But huh?
you're buying a house.
Listen,
It's the maaseh.
it's the thinking behind it. When my son gives me a gift because he just wants to be closer to me, I wouldn't take it as a bribe. But if a guy in business is in competition with his other thing and he goes to the wholesaler, he's like, oh, let me be exclusive, here's $2 million, just take me, that's a bribe. Or the guy goes to court, I don't want to go to jail, here judge, I'll buy you a house in Malibu, just let me off the hook, that's a bribe. It's the intention.
It's like in a relationship. If a guy screws up, come for the gift, to make things better.
There you go. There you go. The whole flower business is alive because of that. The flower business would be nothing if it wasn't for broken relationships. ועכשיו, שאין לנו קורבן להפיק רצון מהשם. So what do we do now? Great, you told me that there's an olah, and when I bring it, it makes me close to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and great. Thank you for telling me, for revealing me a formula that works 2,000 years ago. Hello, 2024, Tafshin Peidalet. Can you tell me how I can make it practical today? So it says, ועכשיו שאין לנו קורבן להפיק רצון מהשם. We don't have this apparatus, this tool of a korban. התענית הוא במקום korban. What replaced this korban? What replaced this offering? Fasting. Stop. We just spent, I don't know how many hours talking negatively about fasting. The Rav doesn't like it. All of a sudden he tells us stay away from it, that the focus is wrong. Do you see what he just snuck in over here? Out of nowhere, we're going to have to love fasting now. Hatanitu bimkom korban. The fasting is going to be the replacement of the sacrifice. כמו שכתוב בגמרא, מסכת ברכות, שיהיה מיעוט חלבי ודמי שיתמעט, כאילו הקרבתי לפניך. In Masechet Brachot, on the 17th page on the first side, it brings over there about Rav Sheshet that used to sit down and fast. And at the end of his fasting, he would have a nusach, he would have this wording that he would say. He would say, Ribon ha'olamim, Master of the universe, Galu lefanecha, שבזמן שבית המקדש קיים, אדם חוטא מקיף קורבן. He says, that during the times of Bet HaMikdash, when a person used to transgress, he had the ability to bring an animal sacrifice and have it atoned. And from this animal sacrifice, we would take what? To atone for the sins, we would take two things. We would take the fats and we would take the blood. And the fats of the blood of that animal would atone for the sin. And now, since we don't have Bet HaMikdash, Yashavti betani vitma'et halbi v'dami. Now that there is no animal sacrifice, I sat down and I fasted. And by fasting, what happens to me physically is that my fats become less and my blood becomes less. And he says, and let this be, desired or wanted by you, that mi'ut chelbi v'dami, this decreasing of my blood and my fats during the fasting process, ki'ilu ikrafti lefanecha, would be as if I brought a sacrifice, meaning the animal would be the fats and the blood of the animal. By fasting, it's you're giving your fats and your blood, so it would be substituting. So the fast would be like you're bringing a korban. So basically the fasting, the results of the fasting of what happens to the body when the fats and the blood become diminished to less in the body because of not eating, would mimic the animal sacrifice that we would burn the blood and the fats, substitute. ולכן מצינו בכמה תנאים ואמרים שעל דבר קל היו מתענים תעניות הרבה מאוד. He says, and you know what? We actually found this practice in many different places. The Tanaic rabbis and the Amoraim, they also, when they do something like the most minute thing, they would sit down and they would fast and they would do tons of fast. כמו רבי אלעזר בן עזריה, שהיה מתיר שתהיה פרה יוצאה ברצועה שבין קרניה בשבת, וחכמים עושים. He says, the night bringing us a case of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that says that a cow can go out on Shabbat in the public domain with its leash between its horns, and Chachamim said no. And they had this whole machloket, this halachic machloket, why it's permissible and not permissible. And then the Gemara recounts, שפעם אחת יצא כן פרתו של שכנתו, ולא מיכה, and it happened to be that one time Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's neighbor's cow went into the public domain on Shabbat with this leash between its horns, and he didn't rebuke her. And his teeth blackened because he was fasting so many days because he didn't keep the words of the rabbis. Because we know that we have a rule, Yachid verabim, halacha kirabim. If you have a singular opinion versus the opinion of many, and you have to say, okay, there's one opinion and many opinion. Yachid verabim, I have yachid, singular, I have rabim, many. What do? Yachid verabim, halacha kirabim. Everybody has to go in the majority opinion. So he should have done that. Since all the rabbis of that time said that they can't go out, he should have done that. He should have backed it up. Because he didn't do that, he started to fast, and he fasted so much that his teeth turned black. Another story. Rabbi Yehoshua also says he's embarrassed from the words of Bet Shammai that because of them, his teeth also turned black from not fasting. Word to the wise, I guess if you fast too much, you get black teeth. And Baal HaTanya continues to give us more stories of big sages in our history that fasted. He says, Rab Huna, one time he was putting the strap of tefillin, instead of the right side, it was on the opposite side, and because the Retzuah flipped on him, he fasted 40 days. And many stories of rabbis that for the most minute infractions, they fasted for so long just to atone for the sin. So what do we see this from all these stories? That these rabbis the way that they acted this way is not because of teshuvah, and not because they wanted to bring afflictions upon themselves. Rather, the reason why they fasted is because these fasts were the replacement of the Korban Olah that comes as a gift in order to bring Hashem back to the original state of where he was before he sinned. So we see that all these rabbis, even though what they did wasn't a big deal, and even if they wanted to do teshuvah process, it didn't warrant such an act. But the reason why they did that is because they wanted to emulate, to mimic the effect of a Korban Olah, which is a Korban Olah is a Korban that brings a person closer to Hashem, like they were at the status before they sinned. That was their only reason for doing that. And on this foundation, the Arizal taught his students. This is according to Kabbalah. מספר הצומות לכמה עוונות וחטאים, אף שאין בהם כרת ולא מיתה בידי שמיים. The Arizal, famous Kabbalist, by way who taught his students, in regards to a fasting process when people transgress, even though that these transgressions had nothing to do with karet or mita b'idei shamayim or death by the heavenly court, he revealed to them, and over here he's going to reveal a little bit more about it. Obviously we don't do these things, but it's good to know them. Kmo ala ka'as, kuf nun aleph ta'aniyot. When a person gets angry, according to the Arizal, he needs to fast 151 days. And over there, we say, well, there's no punishment in the Torah. It doesn't say that you can't get angry. There's not a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, lo tik'as. There's no such thing, right? So why would the Arizal tell us fast 151 days to atone for ka'as? He says, why? Because if you want to come back to that place you were with God previous to your anger, you're going to have to fast 151 days to go back to where it was before. Furthermore, he brings here some gematriot that that mikveh also helps because it's the same amount of 151. So the mikveh is also very auspicious for somebody who gets angry. Go dip a lot. There's another, if somebody has a problem with ka'as, they say that a good thing about somebody that gets angry, look at your tzitzit, look at the kanaf. Why? Because the word kanaf has a numerical value of 150, and then the word counts as one as well, so that's 151. It's giving us some tips for people that want to nullify the bad attribute of ka'as. And I don't know anybody nowadays who doesn't suffer from it. So it's good to know that a person can atone for that. According to the Arizal, he could fast for 151 days, or he can go into the mikveh, which is equivalent to 151, or he could look at tzitziot, which is the numerical value of kanav. All this is obviously if you're a Kabbalist like Arizal. Are we going to do that? Maybe we'll dip, maybe we'll look at the tzitzit, but not 151. Now, the Rav is going to go back to his stance. He says, "Ve'afilu al yisud Rabbanan kmo stam yina mit'aneh ayin gav ta'aniyot." He says, and even on rabbinical prohibitions, like how you can't drink certain the wine that belongs to the that they give for avodah zarah, and for that you have to fast 73 fasts, giving us more examples. And if somebody also transgresses on a positive commandment, a rabbinical positive commandment of prayer, he has to fast 61 fasts. ודרך כלל סוד התענית היא סגולה נפלאה התגלות רצון העליון ברוך הוא כמו הקורבן שנאמר בו ריח ניחוח לשם. He says all these things, why would people do that? It's only because there's a secret behind fasting. It's an auspicious thing, it's a beautiful thing to reveal God's desire to be close to you. Just like the Korban had that efficacy, similarly your fasting will yield the same result. And it will be Reach Nichoach Hashem, it will be a pleasant aroma to Hashem, that service to God. וכמו שכתוב בישעיה, הלזה תקרא צום ויום רצון השם. He says that he brings a pasuk from Yeshaya that when a person fasts, it's a Yom Ratzon Hashem. It's a day that Hashem desires it. Mikla she'atzom hanirtza hu Yom Ratzon, because a fast that is wanted by God becomes something that is desired. Little tricky of a comment, but think about it. If Hashem wants your fast, it becomes something good. But if Hashem doesn't want that fast, then it's not something good.
So how do you know?
How do you know? It says, he tells us right here how you know. The Rav's answer is, you don't know. And because you don't know, don't do it. You actually jumped 2 points over, but that's exactly it is. How do you know? That's exactly the point. That's the point of Rabbi Shneor, Shneor Zalman Miladi, Baal Tanya. He's saying, look at all these things you need to figure out. Do you know? You don't know, so don't do it. He says, למדנו שכל יום צום שנעשה כראוי, יום רצון השם. Any fast day that's done properly, it's desired by God. כלומר, הצום הוא דבר טוב. Fasting is a good thing. Once again, we're getting confused. Rabbi, yes to fast, not to fast. It's a good thing, it's a bad thing. He says, הצום הוא דבר טוב. Fasting is a good thing. When? כשזוכים שנעשה מכל הלב ומתוך השקפה נכונה והוא עולה לרצון לפני השם יתברך. And here is your answer. You know when Hashem wants you to fast? When it's full-hearted. When you're doing it from all your heart. And when you have the right mindset. Remember that guy that was just fasting? He says, if I don't eat for 15 hours, 16 hours, I'm going to be forgiven. No. It's when you do the teshuvah process when you're forgiven. When you change your characters when you're forgiven. When you do the proper rectifications when you're forgiving. You not eating is an accessory to that. It's not the main thing. When the main thing is just not eating and you're not doing the teshuvah process, that is not going to work. That's what the rabbi is frowning upon. You gave the ikar to the food. The ikar is the teshuvah. That is no. But if you have this going on, if you have teshuvah shenesa mikol halev, that your fast is done full-heartedly from the right mindset, ola leratzon lefi Hashem yitbarach, that for sure Hashem wants that kind of fast. However, lo lehalacha, this is not the halacha. This is not what the common folk do. As the Rav is going to explain to us in Perek Gimel, that the generations weakened. והתענית לא רק שאינה מועילה, אלא היא גורמת לנזקים בלתי הפיכים. He says, we're not like the generations of yesteryears. We're not strong like they were. There's a deterioration in the people, and the fast that was done in previous years, it does not have the same efficacy of the fast of these years, because not only does it not improve the situation, rather it causes damage. The people of nowadays, and this is a few hundred years ago, are not able to really activate the powers of the Ta'anit like yesteryears. We're too weak, and instead of improving the situation, they're rather damaging. That's why it says, "Bador shelanu," in our generation, lo shayach la'avod b'ta'aniyot. There's no need in order for us to increase our fasting. Because when a person fasts, statistically or typically, what would happen is his avodat Hashem decreases. The minute a person doesn't start to eat, what if he becomes a weakling? Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I need a coffee. I need to lay down. Where's your avodat Hashem? So you took a day off for ta'anit. 70% of it you're in bed in your pillow because you can't be without food for half a day or for a full day. So where's your avodat Hashem? The whole thing, okay, when you're not eating is because, okay, you're not eating because you're telling your body, no food today, and you're doing avodat Hashem. But if you're not eating and half the day you're like in bed because you're not eating, or you're weak, or I can't, I have a headache, please, like half the day you're kvetching, what is it doing? And by not doing the proper rectification, he's going to increase problems in his day of atonement. He says, you know what's recommended? It's better that you eat properly. That when you eat, you have kavanah on the beracha, that you eat kosher food, and that you have kavanah on the first beracha, kavanah on the final beracha. It's better that you eat properly, correctly, rather than fast and do it the wrong way. יותר טוב שיעבוד האדם על עצמו לאכול נכון, לאכול בקדושה, וזה יועיל לו הרבה יותר מתענית. For a person to eat properly, out of holiness, out of sanctity, that the food is kosher, that the bracha has kavanah, that the bracha achrona has a kavanah as well, that you're eating just so you can have more power to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that service is worth more than the service of a fast. And the rabbi here is just going to tell us one final thing as a tip, a practical tip for this generation. Rabbi Yoram Michael Abijel says, a person that wants God to really forgive him, I know we're learning all these lofty things of how to do teshuvah according to Baal HaTanya. He says, but you know what's the real thing that you could do? If you have a whole dark past and you want to have it forgiven and atoned, shikabel al atzmo ol Torah. Accept upon yourself the yoke of heaven, the yoke of Torah learning. Because, like we said, we're talking about 248, 365, we're dissecting this one, that one, that, 36, 240. He says, you know what? Take all of them, putting on one side, and put the Torah learning on one side. Which one is better? Torah learning. Torah learning is more than all the mitzvot combined. So if you really want to go through a process, it's great that we're learning it, but you know what? Live a Torah life. Just find out what you need to do in the morning, what you need to do at night, how to keep Shabbat, what to do in the Chagim. That is going to be the best atonement for a person in this day and age, in this generation. And he says, he brings the pasuk over here from, a part from the Gemara, from Rosh Hashanah, the 18th page on the first side. אם מתחפר עוון בית עלי בזבח ובמנחה, אמר רבא בזבח ובמנחה אינו מתכפר, אבל מתכפר בתורה. אביי אומר בזבח ובמנחה אינו מתכפר, אבל מתכפר בתורה ובגמילות חסדים. So there's the portion of the Gemara. It says that from Shmuel Aleph, it brings a pasuk that if the sin will be atoned, it will be atoned through zevach and mincha, through a sacrifice and through a mincha offering. So we have two rabbis, Rava and Abaye. Rava says, "Bezevach u'mincha eno mitkaper." No, what are you talking about? The pasuk is saying the wrong thing. You know how a person gets atoned? Torah. Abaye says, "Zevach u'mincha." No. Zevach u'mincha, that's not thing. He's not going to be atoned by that sacrifice or by that mincha offering. Rather, mitkaper betorah u'gemilut chasadim. He added. He says he gets atoned by Torah and by acts of kindness. So we see over here that we're looking for atonement. And we discussed the whole idea of atonement through the process of fasting. And we dissected it left, right, how to do it, what's the good thing, what's the bad thing, kavanah, this, that. Bottom line, what does it mean to us? Don't do it. Don't do it. We're a weak generation. We don't know how to manage ourselves correctly during those days. Most people are not that strong. So what do? It's better that you eat in a better way. Eat with kedusha, eat with brachot, eat with kavanah. That's better than fasting. Furthermore, if you really are concerned about a teshuvah process and you want to atone, take it upon yourself Torah learning. Torah will eventually refine you, will teach you, will guide you in the right direction. In the Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, between Rava and Abaye says, no, not only Torah, but add acts of kindness. And these acts of kindness and Torah learning will be the apparatus, will be the tool, will be the vessel for your atonement. Lastly, and with this we'll conclude, Rav Yoram Michael Abejer Zecher Tzadik Livracha says, you know what's the ultimate decision-making tool that a person should have in their life? Meaning you're all day long is trying to choose right, left, good, bad, yes, no. What do? He says, חייב אדם לשום עיניו וליבו על דרכיו ולשקול כל מעשיו במאזני שכלו. He says a person constantly has to put things on a scale to see yes, no, good, bad. And he says, and you know how you decide how you go about your day? Do you know how you know which way to go in the right direction and which way to avoid? Simply put, כשרואה דבר שיביא לעבודת הבורא, יעשר. ואם לאו, לא יעשר. He says, when you see that whatever you're going to do is going to bring you closer to God, do it. If it pushes you further from God, don't do it. So imagine every single thing you do. You pick up the phone, you're about to go on Facebook. Is this bringing me closer to God? No. Thank you. You get a phone call. Hey, you want to go hang out? Yeah, sure, hang on 1 second. Going out with these girls, will this bring me closer to God or not? Not. Sorry, I'm busy. Okay? You get another phone call. Hey, we're going to go and somebody just gave birth and we're doing like a food train. Do you want to come go shopping, this and that, so we can get them the food so they can have for Shabbat? Yeah, hang on a second. Food train. The lady just gave birth. Oh, that's Chesed. I'll be right there. Anything that brings you closer to God, you do it. Anything that is obviously not, say no. How easy is that? There you go. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I have to learn the Torah. I have to do Masim Chadeh. The rabbi said it's very simple. Whatever you do that brings you closer to God, choose it. If it's not, don't do it. And anybody who takes this tool, this process in choosing right and wrong throughout his day, he's considered Oved et Borot Tamid. He's serving his God. He's serving God always. The end. That's Perek Bet. Be'ezat Hashem. Oh no, it's a long one. Okay, we're going to take on Perek Gimel. We're going to take a Perek Gimel, but Baruch Hashem, we did the whole Perek Bet today, and it cleared up the entire whole thing with fasting, what's to do, what not to do, how to do it. Baruch Hashem. Good. Like I said, this is the hardest learning of the week for us. If you stay locked in and if you just follow the path, you can see that the rabbi takes us there. And thank God for Rabbi Yoram Michael Abejer. I highlight the things that he takes us from one point to the next with the practical lessons. It's really helping us get there. I really feel like we're holding. Anyone who doesn't feel like they're holding and they're lost on a point, please reach out to me, maybe right now after class or anything like that, so I can bring you. Because if you miss one piece, this is a building block. Remember, we got 10 chapters, and we have to build and build and build and build. We just did the foundation too, so keep it in mind. Looking forward to tomorrow's Rosh